Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to be joined again by my friend and business partner, Michael Vincent. We're working together to reduce fuel and emissions with CyberFuels, and Michael is also president of Ocean Plastic Technologies USA, reducing plastic waste and bringing monetary gains to people in the process. It's a win-win. How are you doing, Michael?
It is a win-win. You know what else is a win-win? Being on this podcast with you is a win-win, my friend.
Oh,
I'm excited to be here as well. I'm very excited to be here as well.
I love doing these podcasts with you. It's so much fun.
I almost cut my hair this weekend. Almost. I have not cut my hair since October. I think I've said that before, but I haven't cut. I used to like keep it really tight, like you do.
Yeah,
or actually probably tighter, like spike, just like a number 2, right?
Right.
And my wife and daughters would always say, grow it longer. So in October, I just quit cutting my hair. I haven't cut it since. Well, this weekend, they finally said, hey, let us cut your hair.
Well, hey, in support of your move to grow your hair out,
yeah.
I extended the haircut by 1 week.
Wow. 1 whole week.
1 whole week. It's going to get a little fluffy.
I went 5 months, bro.
5 months. Man,
yeah.
I would look like a caveman, I think, if I did that. Something like that.
I got some curls in the back, dude.
Now, yours is looking good. Yeah.
But the girls want to cut it. So I said, sure, fine. I've got one of those, clippers. Go for it. I can convince them to just give me a nice mohawk, because I got like 6 inches of hair. I could get a nice mohawk going for about a week and then cut that off. I think it'd be fun. Why not? What the hell?
Absolutely. My dad, it's funny because my dad was military and at the first of his career, and then he became an accountant. Well, he always cut it real tight back in those days. But then when he got older, he had the biggest head of hair of anybody I know. And he would say, Andy, I think you just need to let your hair grow out, man. And I was like, Dad, I don't have your head of hair. I mean, I can't pull that off. I can't do that.
Can't do it. Can't do it. That's funny. That's funny.
No,
hey, let me
I
ask you
can't
this
pull
question.
it off.
Let me ask you a question. If you were, let's say you broke out of jail, right? Full on Shawshank Redemption type of thing, right? You're digging for months with a spoon, plastic spoon and stuff, and you're hidden underneath the Raquel Welch, thing, poster, or I don't know, Farrah Fawcett, I don't know, whatever it is. I don't know. Taylor Swift. Maybe you got a Taylor Swift poster.
Probably not.
All right, Hank Williams Jr. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. So you finally get out, right? Let me ask you: are you like immediately looking for a place to get a bite to eat? Is that like your first thing?
Man, I would think my first thing would be if, Lord forbid, I am in that situation. I think the first thing would be get as far away from there as I can, as quick as I can.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But all right, let's say you head for a restaurant. What's the first restaurant you're going for?
Wow. Well, if I'm going to go to a restaurant, there's this one around here. Let's just say I got locked up in Oklahoma.
Okay.
There's one called Charleston's, and it's like a nice sit down place, low light place. You can get a good steak. That's probably where I'd go first.
So you could hang in a dark corner and enjoy a steak and not worry about authorities coming in, right?
I'd probably still be worried a little bit about authorities.
You might be. Hey, so the reason I ask you is AP News, right? These 2 guys break out of a jail in Virginia, right? And like right around the corner, they just post up in an IHOP. And apparently they're sitting at the, bellied up to the bar at an IHOP eating scrambled eggs or sunny side up. I don't know what the heck they're eating. But they're there long enough that the authorities notice they're gone, sent out APBs. The diners get the APBs and are able to figure out and identify the 2 guys sitting in the IHOP, and the authorities come over and arrest them. I mean, it's not like they came in and said, hey, we need something to go quick. What's the fastest thing you can make? Because we're starving. Because we've been digging for like 8 hours and I'm just starving to death. No. They sit down and have a meal and get nailed.
Oh my gosh. That would not be something I would want to do, right? Sit down at a restaurant. I don't think that would be one of my first moves. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
I'm thinking I'd probably hit a little convenience store if I was real hungry, get a little something and just keep going. I don't think I'd sit.
Yeah, right. I mean, and try and look away from the from the cameras.
Right.
Have you ever noticed that the convenience stores, when you walk in, right on either side of the door, just about maybe a half-inch thick, there's a ruler? Did you know
I have
that?
not noticed that. No.
Look, it's there. It's there. So that if you rob the joint and you're running out, they can tell how tall you are. Boom.
Really?
Oh, it's there, bro. Trust me.
Wow. Now that you say that, I'm thinking of a 7-Eleven not far from me, and I think they have a tape measure right along the door.
They certainly do, my friend, because they want to know how tall Andy Hedrick is, just in case you ever steal that White Claw.
You know what's interesting there too is when you walk in that store, they have these monitors.
Yeah.
And they have you on camera, and you're walking in going, "Oh, I'm on camera."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They want you to know it. They certainly want you to know it. It's as much a deterrent as it is trying to catch you. Right. But yeah, it's certainly there. Hey, on to more important stuff, my friend. We always talk about, staying green and operating green and reducing emissions for your business and the earth. Right.
Right.
And like, more and more, it's almost required. I talked to so many people, like, I had Matt McClellan, right? You saw the podcast. I had him on the Sustainiacs. He's talking about how more and more bids say, "Hey, give me your carbon emissions reports," right? You got to have that stuff now, right?
Right.
And obviously that's important to stay in business. And then there's that other important thing called the environment in which we live in, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Right.
And you and I are helping these companies save money while going greener. Yep.
That's right. Absolutely. With CyberFuels, right, dude? You can lower your emissions, and it actually saves your money because it increases your miles per gallon, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So check it out. There's a link here or there or down or on his forehead. I don't know where it is, but there's links. You can get there. Get the CyberFuels.
We will have this special link for Michael Sustainiacs page right down there.
Right. If I make enough money on that through that link, I promise I'll just leave the airwaves.
No, well then we don't. That's like a disincentive. No, we want you to
okay. All right.
make plenty of money and stay on the air.
All right. So here's the thing. Here's the subject that I want to bring up. So are the efforts to curb GHG, or greenhouse gas emissions, CO2 and NOx and all the other kinds, is it working or not? Right. So I'm looking through the news, and the International Energy Agency, the IEA, says it has, kind of, right? So the headline is this, and I think you're going to pull up some stuff. This: the risk of runaway emissions growth from shift to coal amid global energy crisis fails to materialize as renewables, EVs, heat pumps, efficiencies, and other factors reined in CO2 rise. And what they're talking about is there was a fear that the rise in GHG emissions was going to be just out of control, right, in 2022, and it didn't happen. It was one of the lowest growths ever at 0.9%, right? And they talk about EVs and heat pumps and all this kind of stuff doing it, but I'm not so sure. If you dig into the article a little bit and you talk about some other stuff, it sounds great, but to me, I don't know. We talked about this before. To me, it's kind of like, well, we only got outscored 14-0 in the second half as opposed to 28-0 in the first half, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Right. But then the other question is, did we really do it? Did we really come out with EVs and heat pump efficiencies and other stuff? Or was there something else? Because listen to this. It was a 1%, less than 1% increase in 2022 over 21, 0.9% over 1 year to the next. Okay.
Right.
But 2021 was a record year of increase because it was the rebound economy from the pandemic. Right. So if we only grew at 0.9% over a record growth year, it doesn't sound so good, does it, Andy?
No, it's like you said, we only got outscored 14-0 in the second half instead of 35-0 like we did the first half.
Yeah, it's what. Right. So, I mean, we're still on a completely unsustainable trajectory, according to these articles. But I mean, the thing that was interesting as well, Andy, was that we were on a downtrend, right? Not reduction in emissions, but reduction in growth. And I mean, I guess you got to get to that slow in growth before you get to the negative growth, right? I guess is what's going to happen. But we've proven that's very difficult to do because we didn't we didn't reduce our emissions over a record emissions year. We actually grew at 0.9. That's a much dire report than it was only 9.9%, right?
Yeah, 0.9%. And I think we're going to talk about the amounts as well. You're still growing emissions, right? So it's still on a growth trajectory. It's just not growing as fast as they thought it might grow. But like you said, the year prior was record growth in emissions. So it's like, well, we're not growing the emissions as fast as we were before. So that's kind of good.
Yeah. So it's like this. You're going through the season, right? And you get to the midpoint in the season. You say it's 6 games because you're playing college football. So you're 6 games into the regular season, right? And you've lost every game that year by 10 points, right? You get to the 7th game of the season, you play the Ohio State Buckeyes and you lose by 42, right? And then the next game, you only lose by 38 to Michigan. And you say, well, hey, we reduced our losing percentage by 10%. Game over game. Wait a minute.
Yeah, hold on a minute.
Let's graph that. Can we chart that out so we can just see how stupid that is?
That's where it gets into making statistics tell a story, because it's still growing. It's just not growing as fast as they thought it might grow. Yeah. And so they're saying, hey, we're not doing as bad as we thought we might do.
Yeah, we're slightly better. We're only a little bit worse than the absolute worst year in the history of mankind. Just a little bit. So that's not bad. Let's put this in perspective. Because I was talking to a good friend of mine, Shannon Breen. Perhaps you heard of him, from Freightvana. And they plant trees for every load. Okay, that's what they do. That's their shtick, and it's cool for carbon footprint. And I was telling him that I read a study where people will buy more sustainable or greener products for a little bit more money, right? If they know and it can be proven that it's greener. In that same study, and I forget who did it, but in that same study, they found that people understood it or accepted the evidence better if you explained it in number of trees as opposed to anything else, right? So let me help you understand the issue at hand and the impact that a CyberFuels can have. Okay, 36.8 gigatons of CO2, of greenhouse gas emissions, is what we put into the atmosphere in 2022. 36.8 gigatons. Okay. And that's with that 0.9% growth. You have any clue what a gigaton is?
I can't hardly get my head around what a gigaton is.
It's like 2.5 buttloads, I think. It is a lot. It's a lot. And according to NASA, and they got really smart people with like really nice calculators, a ton equals, get this, 10,000 fully loaded aircraft carriers.
1 gigaton, right?
One gigaton
is 10,000 aircraft carriers.
The exact quote from the AP News article is, according to NASA, the mass of 1 gigaton is equal to 10,000 fully loaded aircraft carriers. So we put 36.8 gigatons. That's 368,000 fully loaded aircraft carriers that we put into the air in 2022.
Wow. That's a lot of carbon.
Yeah, but there's no problem, man. It's all good.
But hey, we're only growing by 0.9% instead of growing by 5% like we thought might happen. So, hey, we're doing better in a certain way.
So, so we put 36.8. If we can grow it like 0.5%, then we'll only put like about 2,000, about, I don't know, like 30,000 or 20, no, about 28,000 fully loaded carriers next year will be added to it. We'll be added to it this year, right?
Right.
I mean, when you're talking 368,000 of them, what's another 20,000 aircraft carriers?
Yeah. At a certain point, it's like, wow, how do you even get your head around that? 368,000 aircraft carriers
That's what it
equivalent
says,
of,
man. The
yeah, yeah.
mass. Yeah, the
Uh,
equivalent mass. That's
that is incredible.
it is, man. It's crazy. And one of the points is this, man. We're doing things, we're doing a lot of really good things, right? And there's stuff coming down the pike. You read about like the forever battery that's coming out, right? That's great technology, and hopefully that comes to fruition. But it still uses cobalt, which is nasty, and it's a horror show at the bottom depths of that supply chain, right? And it's highly toxic. But we're making advances. There's advances going on. But to sit back and wait for EVs to happen and the grid to be able to handle them and stuff like that is not an action plan for people. There are stop gaps and steps that you can take right now to help reduce that 368,000 fully loaded aircraft that we're spewing into the air every year. Because guess what? We're going to be burning diesel for at least a couple more weeks, don't you think, Andy?
I think it's going to go a little longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing with the electric, I understand it's being rolled out and it'll hit certain segments of the market. But
Of course it will. Of course it will.
The energy itself is mostly coming from coal-fired powered plants.
That's
So I don't think that's a long-term, as you talk about, circular solution to reducing overall emissions. It's like putting a Band-Aid on an open wound that's been open for 3 weeks, and you said, hey, I found this cool Band-Aid. Let's put this Band-Aid on there. And then the wound just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
It helps, but it's a lot smaller and longer term to realize the help than people think. It's a lot smaller positive impact, and it takes a lot longer to realize it. Because when you make an EV, like a truck, right? The carbon to make it and the batteries and everything is like multiple times more than making a regular internal combustion engine, a diesel engine truck, right? And so that truck has got to live for many years before it even becomes carbon neutral to the regular diesel burning truck, and then starts to become positive because of that initial and because of the source of energy that is powering that electric truck, right?
Right.
It's not like you get it and all of a sudden you're helping the environment. No. It takes like 4 or 5 years before that thing even becomes zero.
Right. And some of the fleet owners that I talk to, they lose anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 pounds of capacity on every trip too. So then you have to add more trips to get the same amount of load capacity out the door as well. So yeah, it takes time to catch up to the carbon that you've expended already, basically.
That's exactly right. And if people, you got to be looking. So you can't wait for this technology either. You can't say, well, this isn't worth it, right, to get there, because more, like we said before, more and more bids and more companies are being graded on their vendor list. And so more and more companies are going to say, okay, Mr. Carrier or Mr. 3PL, who are your carriers or carriers? What are you powering your trucks? It's where's your carbon footprint? Because I need to know it, because my feet are going to be held to the fire by not only my stakeholders and shareholders in the investment community and my customers, but also my employees. I can't attract top talent unless I have the exact same ethics as far as ESG is concerned as my employees and the talent I'm trying to impact. So it's a very real situation that you've got to take control of yourself. You can't just wait for the EVs, right?
Right, absolutely. And that's what I love about what we're doing. We're attacking emissions at the combustion chamber, right? Yeah. And fuel usage as well. Amen. So attacking it at the source, which is, what I love about what we're doing for the industry and for companies, and going greener and greener and greener. And you're right. There's this whole generation coming up. We've got to be thinking about them, right? They're looking at all of this going, if we keep this up and even if we just increase by 0.9% per year on carbon, and we just keep that up, we're not going to have a sustainable environment to live in. We're going to have to live in like these biospheres or something. I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, somebody put it to me that I think it was Bonnie. Yeah, it was Bonnie Monteleone. She's the founder and CEO of a place called the Plastic Ocean Project out in the Carolinas. Look them up. Plastic Ocean Project. Great stuff. They're supporting young children in sciences and getting them scholarships for environmental sciences and fuel science as well. They do a lot of study on fuels, et cetera. Really good stuff that they're doing out there. But she told me, you've got to make these efforts, and you've got to move forward, and you got to fail, right? You got to try and do good, and then try and do good again. Right, is kind of like their motto, to keep moving everything forward.
Right. Keep moving the needle.
Yeah.
Right.
You've got to keep doing
absolutely. Keep moving the needle. Yeah. I saw a documentary on Biosphere 2 over the weekend.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear about that project out in Arizona?
Oh yeah. And I mean, the other thing that she said is this too, along the lines of the biosphere, et cetera, is make no mistake about it. We're not trying to save the environment here, people. We're trying to save us. The environment is going to be here in one shape or another, in one form or another, long after we choke ourselves out. So don't think that this whole thing is just to save the environment and so that we can go on living in a nice environment. No, the environment we're trying to save is the one that we can live in.
Right.
If we don't save that, the environment will still be here. It just won't be conducive to human life. Right. That's the issue.
Right. It might look more like the surface of the moon for a while.
Yeah. You're not trying to save the Grand Canyon so your kids can enjoy it. You're trying to save the fact that your kids will be around to see it, because the Grand Canyon still will be there. It's still going to be there.
Right. Absolutely. No, you're right. I mean, the future generations, and they care tremendous about this, and they're wanting to clean the environment. They're not saying we want to shut down industry. They're saying, can we figure out ways to be cleaner?
Yes.
Right. We all need industry. We all need jobs. We need petrochemicals. But are there things we can do to go greener and greener and cleaner and actually get that emissions curve going downward? That's the main point. And on that subject, I wonder if the numbers that came out were just because we had such an increase in shipping during the post-pandemic 2021 that it just leveled off some and kind of went, so that those numbers are basically just the 2021 level was off the charts because everybody was shipping everything they could get their hands on.
Right.
And then it just leveled off some, basically.
Right. I mean, they don't really dig into that too much in the article, but I agree with you 100%. I would be shocked if that wasn't it.
Right.
Right. I mean, and I mean, if we actually reduce the amount of emissions in 2022 from 2021, I would still contend that that's probably the issue. Problem is, we didn't even reduce the emissions from that massive year. It still went up by 0.9%. It's really bad, man. It's really bad.
Yep.
Really bad.
And on the good news front, we did a study with Olson Ecological out of California.
Oh, very cool.
And we reduced the emissions at the combustion chamber by 21.9%.
Get out of here. 21.9%?
At combustion. Yes.
Wow. That awesome.
Is a big move in the other direction. Yes. So if we imagine we roll that out
in the neighborhood of 20.1.
Imagine rolling that out across millions of big rigs and then the maritime vessels and the rail industry and the fracking, the drilling, all of it. And oh, by the way, it's saving the company money at the same time. That's where we're headed.
That's an interesting concept.
It is. It is an interesting concept for sure.
Okay. Yeah. What if I say that's too good to be true? What do I do?
Well, you can measure it yourself, right? There are labs with analyzers for fuel and emissions. There are analyzers all over the place. You can pull a truck into a truck bay in some areas and hook it up to the tailpipe and see what happened before, and then drive that thing around, clean out the engine.
So what if I need proof before I buy into this, Andy? What am I going to do? Are you going to do a test for me or with me or something or what?
Yep. We do field tests all the time. Yep. Field tests and lab tests frankly. We've
There
had
you go.
clients that wanted lab studies. We have clients that wanted field studies. We do it. We support that, absolutely. We love doing field tests. I mean, frankly,
I love it.
the more news that think about it, I've got all these studies that we've done, right, with field and lab.
Yeah.
The more of those we have, it's just more and more ammunition to keep on going and keep on making it bigger and bigger,
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know how you go, well, I don't know about that. What? No, wait. Here's certified, tests. This isn't like anecdotal stuff. Like, I put the sieves in there and I don't think I fill up as often. But
right. Exactly. No, it's
it.
not. It's not anecdotal. It's measured. It's measured with basically a baseline, then a clean out cycle, which cleans the engine out and lubricates it and everything, and then a test cycle, right? And what were your before, your clean out, and then after? And that's measured, and numbers don't lie. I had a client not too long ago we rolled out with, and we did fuel and odometer across multiple trucks for 46 days. And it's really, really hard to lie on fuel and odometer. I mean, it's fuel added and gallons of fuel burned, and number of gallons of fuel put into the tank. So what is your miles per gallon before? And then what is it later? And it's, you just can't fudge those numbers,
No, you can't. And it's always an improvement, but the range of improvement depends on your use of your vehicle, right?
Yeah. Yep. Anywhere from the lowest I've seen is 8%. The highest is 30.3.
Wow.
So we're averaging 20% fuel economy.
I'd love the 30.3 or the average, but I'll take the 8%. That's pretty darn good.
Yep. It's still a money saver, even at that level. It's still
let's say you spend $358 million a year in fuel and they get an 8% savings. That's not bad.
No, it's enough to pay some light bills. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty sweet. You could hand out a couple bonuses for that type of thing, I would think.
Yes. There's all kinds of other ways you could use that money instead of fuel. You could use it on plant a tree. You could use it on marketing. You could buy some more equipment. You could do any number of different things.
You could plant a couple trees.
Yeah, you could plant trees. You could get more people on your team that are looking at ways to be more sustainable. I mean, there are so many different things you could do with that money rather than let's just burn more fuel. That sounds fun. No, you don't have to do that.
And you're not going to spend it more on maintenance because maintenance tends to go down as well too. Is that a proven thing, or is that more like, it's anecdotal or something like that? Because maintenance goes down as well, right? I mean, you would consider that, right?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. When you have, let's take the Olson Ecologic.
Okay.
You have 21.9% less carbon coming off of the engine, less emissions. Particulate matter was what they're measuring. Yeah. Well, you think about modern engines, and especially like big rig trucks, they have these diesel particulate filters that tend to get clogged and stop a truck on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So you've got a field repair that's $7,000 to $10,000. You've got to transload that material. You might have lost the revenue on that load. I mean, there's just so many knock-on effects of that. But the maintenance, is less particulate filters, change outs, less emissions issues, and then we also lubricate the engine. So when this burns in the upper cylinders, it's lubricating the cylinder. So you're getting a more efficient fuel burn. You're cleaning the carbon out of the engine. You're lubricating the engine. You're having less emissions coming off of the engine. It's preventing particulate filter issues. It's preventing repairs and downtime. It's a game changer.
It is a game changer. I love it. I love it, my friend. Hey, always nice chatting with you and bringing some good news to people and some interesting news.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have to think about what restaurant would stop me from breaking out or after I broke out of jail, which one I would head for directly.
Yeah. What would you say? What would you be your number one?
I don't know. There was a restaurant in back in Painesville, Ohio called Silvestro's Depot Cafe. If that was still around, I would risk being recaught to go there.
It'd be worth it. Maybe.
That probably would. Yeah, it might be. I mean, it depends. If I'm going back for another month or two, yeah, definitely. but 10 more years. I don't know. I think the cutoff's probably 5 years of hard time is probably the cutoff.
That must have been a really good restaurant.
Oh man, it was. Yeah, it was. It was really good. It was good stuff.
Awesome.
Good time.
Michael, it's always fun chatting with you about sustainability and things going on and matters and news. And thanks for coming on the show, of course.
Right on, man. Peace and love, everybody.
That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for joining or watching or listening, everybody. And we will see you again soon. Take care.